The slides okay? All
Yes.
right. So welcome everyone to our session today. We're going to discuss course design in a hurry, which means that we'll be talking about constraints and also options for rapid course design and planning for continuous improvement. And our presenters today, I am Penny Ralston-Berg. I'm a designer with the Penn State World Campus, and I'm also owner of Berg Instructional Design Consulting. And Heather?
I'm Heather Bratz, instructional designer at Worsham College of Mortuary Science in Illinois, and it is an honor to be here.
And hey guys, I'm William Rudge. I teach philosophy courses at Penn State Shenango, so I'm grateful to be here with you as well.
Great, thank you. This is we are partners in crime in various projects. We've recently all worked together through I won't say painful, but interesting rapid course design experiences, and we're just here to share our stories with you today. So to get started, there are some things we can consider when identifying constraints. And really the first step, if you want to do rapid course design, you have to start with identifying those constraints so you're really prepared, right? It may feel like extra work at the time, but it really does pay off later. So if we're thinking about this, we can spend, time at conferences trying to get new ideas, or we're thinking outside the box, right? This is the time where you need to think inside the box, meaning what are the parameters that you need to work within? So we know time to launch, the course has to open at a certain day, but within that, what is your actual work time? Because time to launch could be a few weeks, a few months, but what is the actual work time in professor hours? How much time do you really have? And then also, what tools and skills does the team have? Are you alone? Do you have skills that you can apply to getting the course up in a rapid time frame? And then what resources? Do you have access to other people? Do you have previous course offerings that you can pull things from that have been online? Are there training or some kind of templates or things that you can use? And then also thinking about level of quality, right? So from the beginning of the course development, really planning what's the bar, or what's the level of quality that we're working toward. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Really, we're trying to identify these constraints early on because they help our decision making as we go through the process. So if we take a deep dive into the basic level of quality, in a hurry, we want to lean toward that basic level. And it's not just saying that it's an inferior design. It's saying that we want a foundation that we can build on in future iterations, right? So when we say basic, that's not necessarily a negative. It's a solid foundation. So things we think about are making expectations clear, having a helpful organization or navigation system for the students, and really thinking about clarity from the student point of view. And I put some student questions there. What do I need to do? When do I need to do it? How is it graded? What's expected of me in the class? And what you're really trying to do is reduce those unknowns and questions for the student. So you're preemptively answering questions that you would receive while the course is going. And I've put on the left side a few quality matters standards that would apply to this stage. And there are 15 standards listed there that really contribute to that foundation. So another way we can look at this is considering the content delivery. So how long does it take to produce content that's delivered in the course? How much time does it take to create the course? What skills or resources are needed to do that? And how are you going to present content to students? And so you can see on this continuum, there are a lot of different ways to present content online. And if we're talking about courses in a hurry, we want to stay toward the left side. I have the little running man there with images and text. Sometimes when people think about fast or simple, they think about text, but actually a simple video can sometimes be faster to produce than a written component of a course. Depending on the skills and resources available, but consider simple, short, topical videos if you're in a hurry. Another way we can look at it is from a finished product standpoint. So this is a model that I like to share a lot about just what are the different phases of developing a course. And so if you're thinking about it as making the best possible course you could make, you would be on the top row and, you know, developing a tire, then an axle, then the body of the car, and then eventually get to the finished car. But we need people to learn from this course immediately. So we don't have the time to spend on developing a complete car the first time out. So in the lower level, we've got the skateboard, scooter, bicycle, motorcycle, car. We're developing something that's a solid foundation. Students will learn, but it doesn't need to be everything that it could be the first time it runs. So especially in the last year with COVID, you know, just giving ourselves permission to say, we're going to do a simple, basic, solid foundation, and that's okay. We don't need to have it be everything that it could be. So our first example is the religious studies course, Williams course. We started out talking about it in October, actually probably mid to late October. So October is pretty generous on this timeline. So, and time was very limited, right? October, actually, he had no time. And then I had some limited time. But in November and December, we had limited time. In January, when the course opened, we actually had more time close to the open date than we did leading up to it, which was interesting. So, but usually the way things go, right? We created a design template and a structure in Canvas, and we pulled in syllabus and activities from another course because he had been teaching it in synchronous mode, and so some of the activities in the syllabus were already there. And then we divided the tasks where I was working on setting up Canvas and getting the videos embedded as he was recording videos. And so we kind of had a perpetual kind of rolling, he would drop some videos off for me. I would get them in Canvas, and by the time I had finished that, then another few videos would be ready to go, and we kind of worked at that as a cycle. And we also saved the getting started video for last, just to make sure that all the course was complete. Before we're teaching someone how to use something, it needs to be finished. And so the getting started video is always last. So I don't know, William, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I just want everyone to know, I mean, I'm only an instructor, so I didn't go into the whole design. So if you have questions from that standpoint, but basically what happened was about October, my boss approached me and said, hey, we have a nursing program at Penn State Shenango. She goes, can you put together an online course by January? And at that time, I barely had any online experience outside of getting, bumped onto online this spring because of COVID. So the thing that I appreciate with Penny is I said to her up front, I said, I'm willing to do this, but I want to make sure it's quality. And the thing that I would say Penny really helped me with was, first of all, to recognize that my online course is going to be different than my face-to-face course. So there's things that I wanted to do that I had to adjust for this new learning platform. And I think too, like I saw the car right away. I'm like, Penny, let's make this a car. And I think she was very good at saying, okay, let's just try to take these smaller steps. So those are two things. But, throughout this whole process, I've been getting feedback from my students on how the course was structured. So whatever I can provide from the instructional standpoint, I have no problem sharing my experience, things that I did. Penny and I have already talked about things we're going to be doing when the semester is over, about ways we can improve the quality of the course. So whatever I can do to help provide any insights, you just let me know.
Great, thank you. Okay, I just want to show a few slides about the structure of the course. And as far as structure goes, there's really no one right way to structure a course. Really, the important thing is to establish your naming conventions and labels for things and the order that those will appear in. So you're putting the same thing in the same place with the same name, and students aren't hunting around for things. And so it's a simple structure that's used throughout the course is the key takeaway here. And you can see these are very, very simple with each week had a to-do list with things that the students were required to do. Everything for that week was listed in one place, so there were no questions. A student could work their way through this list and be confident that they had completed all the work that was required. And then within the to-do list, you can see it mirrors the structure of the modules. So there are readings, there are videos, there are activities to do. And then the right screenshot is a picture of the videos and how there was a mix of instructor created videos that were short topical videos for students mixed with existing videos that help round out the content. Okay. And for the Worsham College example, this was a little different in that it was a new program. And so we were creating 6 courses for a new program all at once. And there were also student orientation and some model courses that were created. So when you think about 6 courses plus an orientation plus course templates, there are kind of 8 things going on at the same time. So just really quickly, we started with setting quality standard. Quality was so important in this project, and then develop the model course based on that standard. So I use Quality Matters as a starting point in developing a model course that had components that were designed to meet standards. And then we tied that to faculty professional development. So the templates that we created were used to train faculty, were also used in the course development. So all of the pieces fed into the final product of the course. And then there was also a Camtasia recording booth that was set up to make it easier for faculty to record their videos, and they got a lesson on how to make videos. So Heather was the designer for this whole process. So I'll let her talk about the rapid development plan.
Thank you, Penny. And really, thank you for being my mentor, because as a brand new instructional designer, I had no idea what I was in for when we started at Worsham. I think it's notable to mention that Worsham College had never had any online courses prior to September 2019, that most of our instructors are septuagenarians and they had not taken any online courses themselves. So it was really important when Penny came over to do some in-service training with our staff, that she showed the example of that spectrum of kind of lo-fi to hi-fi learning, as well as the skateboard model, and really gave them the confidence that they could do this, because we had such a limited amount of time before fall to develop all these courses. And once we started developing them, we wouldn't be able to stop. We couldn't just say, okay, we're going to take a couple of months off, because we had to start developing the courses for the next semester and then the next semester until people were through our 4-semester program. So it was really important to start off with that really defined structure. So we weren't, thinking outside the box, as Penny says. We need to think inside of the box and use the box and love the box, because the box helps us to work within those constraints of, what is good, solid instructional design, what is a quality course, and how can we make sure that all of the courses speak to one another, are aligned with our learning objectives, and really help provide a consistent learning experience for our students, especially when we have only a couple of months to build them. So it was great seeing faculty who had come to the table thinking, I don't want to do this. I would rather retire than go online. And seeing this model and working with Penny and learning how to use Camtasia or Zoom, or even just email, having a personal email for the first time in their life and saying, this is doable. I know what my expectations are as a faculty member. I know what I need to ask from my instructional design team. I know where, using the Quality Matters course map, where I need to put in an assessment or an activity in order to get my learners from point A to point B and get them where they need to go to really achieve that learning objective. So it was really Penny is kind of a motivational speaker in the sense that we can do it. There's going to be a lot of work to do, but we can all do it if we just stick with the plan and stick with the course map. So a lot of that was building confidence. I think that was most important during the beginning of our design.
Yeah, definitely making people comfortable with the idea of putting things online. And I think we really had a breakthrough on that when we talked about the skateboard model, and that this doesn't need to be everything it could be the first time. I think that made people feel much more comfortable with the task that they were about to achieve. So that was sometimes frightening. So
absolutely, I could see everyone wipe sweat off of their brow when you said you could just do a commentary with some images of a sarcophagus. You don't need to have a video of you in Egypt opening it up. And they're like, oh, I get it now.
Right.
I don't want to do videos. And you're like, you don't have to be on video. You could just do a narrated PowerPoint or even just a written web page with pictures lined up. And they're like, oh, that sounds easy. And you're like, well,
No.
it's still a lot of work, but we can do this and we can do it very quickly.
Yeah. And it was good, like you said, to build their confidence where they were to a point where, yeah, I can do this. It's going to be okay. Yeah. So I wanted to show this too. You mentioned course maps. So the course maps in this program saved a lot of time, especially when we're thinking about how much content is needed for a course. And the key point here is that students don't need to know everything the instructor knows about a topic. What they need to know is the amount that will help them be successful in doing the activities and assessments in this module. So really trying to put some constraints on the content and making it more manageable to produce. And so the course map helps answer questions and really creates a to-do list, which it helps determine what materials, activities, or assessments already exist. Can face-to-face activities that have been successful be converted to online, which the answer is almost always yes. So you're really not throwing anything out or changing the course completely when you move it from face-to-face to online. Another question, can online activities from previous courses be used? I mentioned how we pulled in some existing activities in the syllabus from in the religious studies course into the fully online version from the synchronous version. So, and then the last most important question is what actually needs to be created, right? So when you do this course map, you end up with a to-do list of, I have this, I need to work on this. These are the few handful of things that actually need to be created from scratch. So, and I know, Heather, for this program, there were considerable amount of materials online. And so just as in William's class, as we showed before, there was a mix of new video and existing video from other sources.
And Penny, I see Miriam asks, what was the purpose of us using Camtasia?
Okay. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, I'm a Camtasia convert. I don't think that I had paid for a video editing product in my life. And Camtasia is awesome because it is so easy to just capture what I'm doing on the screen and do some quick narration, or to throw in some intros and outros to polish up our instructor videos. A lot of what I do as the instructional designer now is editing together the instructor's video content and making sure that it all has a very similar branding. So our logo, the intro music, all of the different brand strategy stuff is implemented for all of our different videos that the students experience online. I think Studio is a pay for add-on. But I've heard good things about Studio within Canvas. So Camtasia is just something that we've been utilizing on our campus here with pretty great results. It's very user-friendly, so not a huge learning curve.
Yeah, for the powerful editing tools that it has and the options that you have when you're working with video, it is very easy to use compared to some other things that I've worked with. So, and it's also easy to set up on a station, to kind of off in the corner in a quiet room to produce that video recording lab for the faculty. So, okay, so here we can look at, I was talking about converting face-to-face to online. So what this is, you can look at the first column there. If you're trying to convert something to online, you want to start with listing out the steps of what the students will actually do. So in the first column, again, there are the steps that students would do if they were in class with you. Then in the second column, you try to adapt those to an online delivery. So for example, in step 1, students are in the classroom and you say break up into groups of 4 or 5. Well, in online courses, it's faster if you just assign student to teams and appoint a leader that might rotate through the different activities so everybody gets a chance to be a leader at some point. Step 2, you might be reading a question prompt aloud or reading instructions aloud in the classroom. So obviously if they're online, they would need to do that online. Steps 3 and 4 are the same. Step 5, they would do a report out from the groups that were in the room, but in online, maybe you want the group leader to post some summary comments or something. So once you have the activity converted, then you look at the time span. And this is the biggest difference between face-to-face and online, is that online, it takes a lot longer, right? So if you're all together in the classroom, it may take 1 hour. Say you have a 1 hour class period. It may take just a portion of that class period. But when you put it online, so 1 day for the groups to get acquainted, and then 2 days for the first post. People are working, they have other things going on, they may not be able to all post at the same time. And then maybe 3 days for just discussion to happen. And then you might end something at the end of the week and and have some follow-up that's due. So you tend to think about it in days versus minutes in the online environment. And then after you get the time span worked out, then you can update the instructions, and then you have your face-to-face activity converted and ready to go. I don't know. Heather, you want to say anything about converting?
I see Paula asked, what kind of faculty development did you do to help speed up the process? And I know that you had provided a very similar template to this for the faculty that had been only teaching face-to-face, and this was their first foray into online teaching. And the idea of everything that you do in a classroom, we can convert, but it's going to take a little bit more time. So it's very much the same as when, you know, if we're in a face-to-face classroom and we're going to break out into doing mock funeral arrangements where someone acts as the bereaved family member and the other person acts as the funeral director, that might be a bit difficult to do live with a class of 35 students. So what they would do is break out into Zoom, upload their video, and then post it to a discussion for the other class, their classmates to watch and review and respond to. So it's not something that just happens on one day. It may happen throughout a module or throughout a discussion. So it stretches everything out a little bit.
Yeah. And that's a good point. We did show them lots of examples of online activities and online courses because a lot of them had not seen an online course before. So showing examples, critiquing the examples, and breaking them down into the steps so they can see how the steps applied, and then practicing as a group, converting some things to online, and also one-on-one sessions, just talking through what do you do face-to-face and how can we help you convert that. So there were some group sessions and some one-on-one sessions.
I just want to add too, Penny, this was one of my big learning curves going from face-to-face to online, because I teach as religion, ethics, bioethics. So we're like heavy on discussion part.
Yeah.
That was my biggest fear when I talked to Penny. I don't want to lose that quality of the students be able to express their views and opinions in an environment where they can do it in a constructive way. So we did a great job, you know, like the class I'm teaching right now, we do breakout rooms, but the religion, which is fully online, there's no class time to meet. The discussion boards have been huge. And I've seen students really just articulate. And the other way that I did besides discussion boards to get them to think through the issues, I do journal reflections almost every 2 weeks. I give them the option to either post a paper or to submit a video. So as they're going through the material, I'm constantly getting feedback to see how they're doing. So I just want to say that when I switched to online, that was my biggest fear, that somehow I'm going to miss the ability to have these great conversations on important topics. And I don't feel like that's been minimized at all.
There's something you said, William, that really resonated with me last time we spoke, was the most introverted students were starting to be really active in those discussions and how they kind of found their voice online, whereas you may have never heard them speak up in a classroom and face-to-face.
Yeah, and actually I'm going back face-to-face this summer for a class. I'm going to still create discussion boards to have that dual learning experience for students. Because there's, like you said before, I've had students who it won't stop talking in class. And then there's other students who I don't hear at all, and then they jump in the discussion board, and I'm emailing them or saying, hey, why aren't you sharing this information in class? This is great stuff. So you're right. It's been great to really navigate the different places where my students learn at.
Great. Okay. So the end result of all of this is a foundation which you can enhance and improve upon. So the first hint there, truth be told, time is always going to be limited, right? We never seem to have enough time to do everything we'd like to do. And so thinking about course design as an iterative process, considering constraints and making plans within those constraints can really help guide your course development each semester. And I included a few just examples of things to think about here when you get to the end of that first online course offering or subsequent offerings too. Are there QM standards? We did that basic set of standards at the beginning. So are there other standards that you want to circle back to? Have you received feedback? that you want to incorporate in the course? Is there any cross training that needs to be done? So William and I have been working together, but at some point he'll be responsible for maintaining the courses on his own. And so we have a little cross training to do, so I can show him how I posted the videos in Kaltura and how I embedded them in the class with the Penn State resources that we have access to. Another thing, you may have had a big idea when you were creating that skateboard or scooter, and then maybe you have resources and time to circle back to that now to actually make an enhancement. Or were there points of difficulty in the course where students may have had trouble or they asked a lot of questions? If students are asking a lot of questions, that's a trigger to go back and kind of look at those activities and see if we need to improve the instructions or the activity or something like that. You can also think about passive to active, meaning that you may have done it in a hurry and we have a lot of videos and a lot of content delivery, pushing content out to the students, but could some of those be converted into an activity that has maybe more critical thinking or another kind of activity that makes it more active and engaging for them versus just taking in information? Could they produce some content for the course or something like that? And also thinking about time saving opportunities. So one thing I know that we're talking about for the religious studies course is using rubrics and grading with the rubric and the speed grader, because that can speed up the grading process, and that there are some other time saving things that we're thinking about. So all of this really helps make the course better and easier to manage, right? So it's not just on the student side, it's the student and faculty side, making it a good experience on both sides.
I have to say, Penny, the faculty now at Worsham really love rubrics. They felt it was similar to the course map, where there was some apprehension at first, where it's like, oh, I've never used this before. This seems, kind of daunting. And then as soon as we started using rubrics and SpeedGrader, everyone was like, oh, I love this. Can I use this with my face-to-face students? It's like, yeah, just print it up, I guess. Hand it out, put it in your syllabus. It's just a really useful metric to have that communication of what the expectations for students are at the very beginning of any assignment. And I think it really helps improve the quality of what coursework that they're submitting. I did see a couple of questions. Penny, from Marianne, it says you talked about adding videos to Canvas. Do you do all the Canvas work, or does the faculty add the content to Canvas?
Okay, yeah, for the religious studies course, I added the videos to Canvas. And so our procedure was we had a shared Google folder and William could drop files there. And then I would take them and upload them into Kaltura, because we have Kaltura Canvas integration. So I'd upload them to Kaltura and then embed them in the Canvas pages, which would stream out of Kaltura.
And then for the Worsham courses, the faculty would upload those to a Google Drive that I shared with them, and I would upload them to Vimeo and put them into their pages after I did some pizzazz and Camtasia, like adding intros and outros and fun music. And we did that, if we got the content early enough on. If it was content delivered later in that timeline, it would just be the video without any edits and all the ums, burps, and coughs. So, as that crunch time happens, the level of post-production quality, there's a diminishing returns.
Yeah. And I also did, to your second question, I also did the setup in Canvas too, the to-do list and the module setup in Canvas. So just to kind of let you know how that conversation went, we had an honest discussion about what it needed to be done and what the tasks were. And we decided together that I could handle the videos and I could set up Canvas. And William's time was so limited, we just wanted him to focus on developing those videos and getting that content ready. So what we were trying to do is plan it, and I should say plan it, work it so that the course was finished before it opened. Because if you're trying to develop content at the same time the course is running, it's so hard. It's such a difficult thing to do. And so we separated those tasks because we wanted to really divide the work in that way that would help him get the course finished in the quickest way possible. I don't, William, you think that's fair to say?
Well, yeah, fair. And there's no, I told Penny there was no way I would have been able to complete the course without her. And that's why I jumped in, and we were very upfront with each other about what our deadlines were in time. And I just said, look, I trust you to set the course up the best way that you feel. So I think that what I would encourage any instructor working with, you have to work within your strength. I knew what Penny was good at. I knew what I was good at, and we complemented each other, because there's no way that I would be able to complete this if I didn't work with her.
So one more thing I wanted to mention, and we kind of touched on this with Heather's example at Warsham. Continuous improvement also happens at the program level. And so again, in the Warsham example, we started with standards and models and created templates. Those were used for faculty development, which fed into the course development, and we revisited those models and design decisions to make improvements across the program. And those have been updated. And so we've been around this circle probably 3 times now, making improvements and really fine tuning that. But yeah, we're continually using this cycle. So that does apply to the program too.
Yeah, every time we get to the formative evaluation, it's thinking about that skateboard model again and saying, okay, can we put a handle on this Razor scooter? I see there's a question for William from Pinar about the partnering with an ID, and did it come naturally? What are some of the challenging points you experienced that made you shift your thinking while working with Penny?
Yeah, well, I was blessed because at Penn State, I'd already been taking some classes about how to prepare for online. And when we got kicked onto COVID, Penny was our ID for our campus. So we had that relationship already. So I think having that existing relationship and working through that, but I mean, I think Penny and I just worked really well together. It was just complete honesty. There were times where she's like, I think you have too much in this week. And I'm like, I'm not sure, Penny. But then I think it just was that constant communication back and forth. And in regards to, says, what were some of the challenging points that made you shift your thinking while working with an ID? You know, I don't know if it was anything specific outside of that fear. One of the things my students they love about my class is the way that I'm very genuine in the way that we open up about topics. So that was the biggest fear that I had. And I know I've already said this point before, but I told Penny, I said, I don't want to lose the quality. I don't want to just throw a course together and be like, okay, I checked the box and now my boss is happy and we've got this for our nursing students so they can get through the program. So I think that was some of my shift to say, okay, how can the lack of that face-to-face interaction not impede my students' ability to be able to express themselves, to be able to feel like they're getting the most out of me? So I would say the other thing too, Pinar, was just the challenge of recognizing that I had to change the way I communicate with my students. So like what I do is every Friday, I have a summary video where we talk about what we covered this week, what's going on next week. The journal reflections are something that I really value, because the journal reflections are not just for them to talk about what they learn in the class, but what are some concerns or suggestions that you have. So I think that has been the thing that I've had to work more on, is to recognize I have to be much more intentional in communicating, because I didn't have that constant face-to-face interaction. And Penny was excellent in just being able to make sure that I didn't lose that part of what I value so much with my students. So if anything else you want to add, Penny?
I think another piece of it is that, you know, I'm not an expert in that subject matter. And so I could play the role of the student and read something and say, I kind of don't understand these instructions, maybe, you know, and then I would ask questions or we would work together and kind of fill them out a little bit. So I was trying to see it from the student point of view, making sure that everything was nice and organized and what I call tight design, meaning there aren't any loose strings or
Yeah,
questions that are going to come up.
yeah, and I think we all know instructors can be very controlling over their course. And so I had to step back with a little humility and recognize that Penny's my greatest asset. So I had no problem with her giving me criticism. I told Penny that. I said, if I send a video to you and it's not up, up to par, I said, be honest with me, because I want this to be the best for the students. And I think that's where her and I really work together. Is we both had the same goal at the end, was how can we best create an environment for the students they can walk away and really enjoy it. And I want to just compliment Penny, because I had my midterm feedback from my students. Every single student talked about how well the course was run, how much they're enjoying it. The only thing they said negatively, if I wouldn't even say negative, was a couple of weeks there was too much information, which, by the way, I will have to admit, Penny warned me about, but I kind of dug my feet and said, well, that's so essential. But she just did a great job. And I, like I said, I'm grateful that her and I had the same, end game, which was to create the best quality, experience for the students.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I have to compliment you too, because it was your openness and willingness to kind of talk things through and accept ideas that maybe you hadn't considered before, that, the two of us genuinely collaborating, took us to a better place than if we had just divided the labor and made a course. We were genuinely collaborating, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm taking things that I learned from Penny. I'm going back to my face-to-face class and looking to implement them as well. So this wasn't just hey, we're done. Now I can just forget what she taught me. I'm applying it now to my other classes. So I'm grateful for that.
And I agree that the idea of having an open mindset, like William came to this wanting an end goal, which was quality and a great learning experience for his students, and being open to change, like saying, I know that this isn't going to be the same as my face-to-face course. I know it's not going to be comfortable because we're doing it in such a short amount of time. So there's going to be a little bit of stress added to this, course development process. But being open-minded about, what can we do to make this an awesome online learning experience, even though it is different, and having that open-minded approach to it really makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, it's so important to maximize the collaboration. It produces such a better product in the end, for sure. So our time's winding down. I just want to share a few more things. If you're designing a course or a program in a hurry, identifying constraints, considering quality standards, setting that level of quality for yourself, using mapping as a time saver, even though it may feel like an extra thing to do at the beginning. And then I should mention too about the mapping. In the religious studies example, I did the mapping on my own and didn't want to distract you with that, William, because I knew you were so busy with the videos. I just did it on my own and I knew it was good, so we didn't have to do that. Yeah, use models and templates to your advantage, and all of those things are going to be your friends and time savers. So hurry, but create a solid foundation. And we can open it up for questions with our remaining time.
I see
Karen.
So many, yeah. Oh, Karen asked about the course map template. I think it appears multiple places on the Quality Matters website. And I just posted a link to the 2017 QM Connect conference where they have the template and a poster presentation by Beth Apodaca.
That's the best one. Yeah, there are many great ones. If you just hit the search tool on the QM homepage and put in course map, you'll get several examples that are all excellent.
I love this one because it has the handout on learning objectives that I use when onboarding faculty.
We did modify it though for Worsham because it has one column for materials, but we added materials I have, materials I need to create. So we split it into 2 columns to help with our to-do list.
Yeah, that kind of structure from the very get-go made it much easier for us to develop, but also for Penny to do her QM review of the courses before they went live for us to go through at the end of each semester and see where we need to update the course map, because our faculty are now maintaining their course maps like a little garden, where at the end they're saying, okay, students found that this was a little bit too long, so maybe I can make this a 2-week module and take away from one of the other easier modules. And they use the course map for their end of semester review and their course improvements phase as their blueprint for what they want to do in the future.
Yeah, I saw Kim's comment on there, Penny, and I'm grateful that hopefully we've been able to give, everyone information to go back and share, because that's the thing. Like, the worst thing for a teacher is to have your students confused about what's going on next week, let alone what's happening in that class. And I didn't want to spend all my energy trying to explain the structure of the course. I wanted to focus more on the content of the course. So that's where Penny stepped in big. And I think any school that wants to allow their professors to be much more focused upon providing quality education for the students, they're going to see the value of having an instructional designer come along and help get the course right. I mean, obviously, I know once this semester is over, Penny and I have to do a little bit of time to hang out. She's going to teach me some things that she did, because I can't have her with me all. But having that initial setup was huge. And that's why I talk about, Penny, how can we solve problems now rather than have to deal with them down the road? So I'll just leave it at that.
For sure. How are we doing at time, Jillian?
We've got about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
One question I think I saw back there in the chat, I'm not sure if you got to or not, was did you have to develop online quality standards in a hurry as well? And I think you used, or the QM standards, sort of you already used those, the basis for your.
Right. The QM standards are the basis for my work as a designer at both places. Yeah. And so but not all 42 standards at once, right? Because we have limited time and we're trying to do it in a hurry. So the 15 standards that are the foundation are helpful. And then for the Worsham example, I had some more time to develop the templates based on the QM standards. And so those have a larger number of standards that are covered in the course model, but not all of them. Yeah. And if somebody is looking to develop a set of course templates based on QM standards, New Mexico State University Course Developers Guide is free online. Just do a search for New Mexico State University Course Developers Guide QM, and you'll probably be able to find it. They have sample syllabus, sample course pages. I always give them a shout out, because that's a great resource if you're trying to do that.
And that's in the chat, the link to the Course Developers Guide.
Thanks, Heather. Always got to give a hat tip to New Mexico State. All right. Thanks for all the great questions today, everyone. It was good to have those sprinkled along the way. So we hope that you got some good takeaways from this.
Yes, thank you, Penny and Heather and William. I definitely got some good takeaways. I loved the granularity of the converting the face-to-face to online, really step by step, and the genuine collaboration. I think that is key there, that it's not just collaboration, it's truly genuine. And so I very much appreciated that. Thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time and attention on this Friday.
Yeah, thank you very much.